Well, good evening. Welcome to Center Stage at Beth Israel, the West Temple. I'm so honored to have our friend with us today, Andy Baskin. Good evening.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Tell us about Andy Baskin's short life so far. Tell us about you.
Born in Mount Sinai Hospital, which is no longer there. I look at all the places that are no longer there for when I was. Mount Sinai is gone. I graduated from the front row. That's now a Home Depot. So, I mean, I have all these great things that have happened in my life. All these places are gone now. It's crazy. No,
Yeah.
Grew up in Cleveland Heights, right off Taylor Road, right across the street from Hebrew Academy. Went through the Heights schools. Went to Kent State. Graduated from Kent in 1990. Moved to Missoula, Montana.
Wow.
Which I have a great Jewish story about that. And I was there for 5 years. I became the voice of the Montana Grizzlies. I traveled with the women's basketball team, which was a huge deal out there, till 1995. And then I ended up going to Columbus. I worked at Channel 10 for 5 years there. I left Columbus, went to go work for Fox Sports Net, spent 6 years traveling with the Indians and the Cavaliers right when LeBron came in the first time.
Wow.
I did that for 5 years, ended up going to Channel 3 for a year, ended up, after that, started my own business, had a production company, did that for about 6 months, then Channel 5 called. I was there for 10 years, and then 11 years ago, 92.3 The Fan started, and I ended up doing both of those. I also, along the way, have done radio. I did radio in Columbus for WBNS. I did radio in Montana while I was doing TV. So I've always done radio and TV at the same time. And I did a little bit of newspaper when I was in Columbus working for the This Week papers. And then over the last year, which has been a thrill for me and an honor to take over for Les Levine, I took over his column in the Jewish News. So that's Askin Baskin. And I cannot get over how many people, as my mom used to say, read the paper, the Jewish News. It's been a great experience for me.
Tell us about your bar mitzvah.
It was the worst bar mitzvah in the history of bar mitzvahs. I think, I'm trying to remember. I went to a place called Yabi, which is on Warrensville Center. I think it's still there. And it was just an after-school program. My parents, when we were kids growing up in Cleveland Heights, both my brother and sister went to Temple on the Heights, Heights Temple. And, you know, they went through the whole thing. My sister got confirmed. My brother had a bar mitzvah, which was great. Like, as I was 10 years younger than my brother. And I watched this whole thing like, oh, I want to have bar mitzvah, and this is really cool, and this is it. And so I don't know where my parents were. Like, maybe they weren't part of the temple. And then we went back into it, and I went after school, and I pretty much, I know what happened. I went to go see a guy who lived on DeSoto, which is right off of Taylor, which let's face it, I grew up in Little Israel. Everybody was Jewish where I lived.
Yeah.
And he was an older guy and had no patience. And I would go in for Torah study, and he was like, "Are you going to read? Are you going to practice? Are you going to study?" And I was like, "Maybe. I don't know." And he basically told my parents, "Keep your money. This kid's not going to make it."
Oh, my.
My brother, who was 9 years older than me, was like, "We're not having that." My brother and I would go in the basement, and my brother was the one that taught me. And he would scream at me every time I wanted to walk away, and he would yell at me, but if it wasn't for my brother, I wouldn't have had a bar mitzvah. And so Rabbi Shur was a friend of my grandfather's, and I ended up having it at Heights Jewish Center, and here's like this totally reformed Jewish kid at an Orthodox bar mitzvah that was like, I think it was like 9 hours long. I think we got there when the sun rose, and I was so hungry by the time it was over. I think I ate my arm by the time we were done. I was like, "Is this kosher?" And they're like, "Yeah, go ahead, eat your arm."
So all that educational process, was there always something in the back of your head that thought media, sports media? How did that fill itself in for you?
I think it was out of necessity. So, my dad had worked for the Browns as a scoreboard operator. So at the old Cleveland Municipal Stadium, behind home plate, there was a walkway up to the loges. And on that walkway, they put like a high school scoreboard that was kind of like just attached to the walkway. But it didn't run based off the main scoreboard and center or the two sideboards that a lot of people remember had the Channel 43 logos on the end. It had to be manually done. And my dad was an electrician, and it was a job that had to be done by a union electrician. So my dad ran the scoreboard, and I got to go to the games with him. And I was on the field for for the drive.
Oh,
my dad
gosh.
I was a big kid. I was in my teens, and my dad said, just pretend like you're working, because I had a press pass. So we walked out, and I got onto the field, and it was just super cool. And so I just remember Brian Brennan, who I ended up working with later in life, walked by me, and now I think about it, because we were all bummed. Brian had that great catch before the drive, and he walked by me, and I looked at him, and I was like, man, great game. And I put my hand on his shoulder pad as he walked away, and he shook his head as he walked away, and he never remembered it. So it's weird how, like, as you get older, these people that were your heroes, even if it was a 5-year gap or 10-year gap, I remember saying to Brian, because I did sidelines when I was at Channel 3 with Brian and Bernie, and now I'm trying to remember who the play-by-play guy was.
The gentleman who passed away, I think.
No, it was Rosen.
Was it Casey Coleman?
No, it wasn't Casey.
Okay.
It was the voice of the Rangers, who does NFL. He was in to do, because Jim Donovan was doing the radio, so he wasn't doing TV.
Okay.
And I think it was Sam Rosen.
Okay.
Sam Rosen. So I ended up working with those guys. But, here I am years later, not only working with Brian Brennan, but working with Bernie Kosar. It was crazy. It was just, it's just like you grow up in Cleveland, and these are just things that, like, you never thought were possible, and they were awesome. Just really cool.
How many sports radio channels are there here in Cleveland?
2, 3-ish. 3-ish,
Are you 24/7 sports?
Yeah.
At yours?
Yeah, 92.3 has the most local sports program. That's what we like to say. It's marketing to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I talk for 4 hours a day. That's what I do.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 with Jeff Phelps.
And how many other 4-hour slots are there during the day?
So we have our morning show, our show. The afternoon drive, which I've been filling in on this week, is 5 hours. And then there's Chico's on now. He's on for another 4 hours. So, and then we have shows on the weekends too. Barbershop with Garrett Bush. He does a nice job, and he's been filling in throughout the week. He's played football at Akron. He's a good dude.
So, 92 The Fan, is that an ESPN channel?
No, we were originally CBS, and then CBS Radio was sold to a group called Entercom. Since then, Entercom has changed their name to Odyssey. So Odyssey. So if they're an Odyssey station, Odyssey.com. That's us. We're Odyssey, and we have stations all over the country. The Fan in New York is our sister station.
So, sports and sports and sports. Do you ever come home and think, gosh, I'd like to just read a book read a novel and not have your mind in sports?
It's been a part of my life, my whole life.
Yeah.
It started with my dad and my brother, and it's taken different turns the whole way. And so how did I get into it? I was like everybody else. 99.9% of all athletes are failures at the end.
Yeah.
But you take what you can get out of sports when you play it. I learned how to be a team player, how to not be a star player, how to sit on the bench, how to work with others. Like as I coach today, I talk to these kids, and I'm like, it's not about the game, because 10 years from now, you're not going to remember that we lost that game 3-2 to St. Ed's. What you're going to remember is the guy who was my partner on defense, or what we did after the game, or where we were there. It's the moments that you remember. For me, it's like my senior year at Cleveland Heights, we were 30-0 in hockey, and we lost the state championship to St. Ed's the 4th or 5th time we played them that season. Every time we played them, it was a 1-goal game, and we were in Bowling Green, and we lost 6-5. And I can't remember anything from the game. I just remember the end of the game.
Yeah.
And I remember losing. And that feeling of we were 30-0 and let it slip away at the end to a really good team that ended up with 2 guys in the NHL. The Harkins brothers were on that team, and Todd Gray, and I look at all the guys that I still talk to, to this day. And it's just, you lose a state championship game, you never want to lose it, but by the same token, I made a ton of friends along the way. And it was such a growing experience, and it's you can't win all the time, and you can be on great teams. It always brings up this question, like, because I didn't play a lot my senior year, I played a ton my junior. But would you rather be a player? Would you rather be on a team that wins all the time and has success, but you sit the bench, or on a team that loses and you play all the time? I think it's like one of those great sports ethics debates.
Yes.
And what do you learn about that when you get older? So I live that every day. And the other part of it, too, that I learned about high school was how to look at life. Because I played on a team at Cleveland Heights that was amazing. We were a great team my senior year. But if University School doesn't exist, I'm not playing hockey at Cleveland Heights because there were kids that lived in Cleveland Heights that played for US. So what happens is those kids from US leave Cleveland Heights, and it creates opportunity at the public schools.
Wow.
So whenever I hear this argument about they recruit, they do this, they do that, I always look at it from my perspective as being a public school kid, it creates opportunity for somebody who wouldn't have the chance to play. And now I coach at a private school, so it makes it even more interesting.
Which would be the answer to living in Lakewood with St. Ed's.
Correct.
Same kind of thing, yes.
So think, Mark Ferfolli did an amazing job coaching hockey for Lakewood here. But again, he got kids from Lakewood, and probably the best kids from Lakewoods are going to Ed's or they're going to Ignatius.
Yeah.
And Mark took these kids, and there was a kid that was on the state championship team this year from Gilmore that his dad's a teacher, and his family moved out of Lakewood, and he was probably the best player in Lakewood. So now his family moves, so now he doesn't have to wait out a year. He ends up at Gilmore, and now he wins the state championship. Wow. I mean, the kid went from probably one of the most struggling teams in Northeast Ohio to a state champion, and you watch that ride, and it's fascinating.
What happens when somebody calls and you let them speak, and then you think they have no idea what they're talking about? How do you answer? I'm sure you get many people who call or are on to sports and understand it, and the questions are good. I would think it'd be hard to bring somebody along who doesn't have the right feel for the subject they're talking about.
It happens all the time. It's like being.
Does it really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're at Passover Seder, and someone starts talking about sports, and they have no idea what they're talking about. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. I think about, and it's just they just want to be a part of the conversation, whether they're Mensa or they don't know anything. They just want to be a part of the conversation, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you're passionate about being a fan, and Jeff and I might laugh if you make a mistake, but Jeff and I, we don't crush people. We let people speak too long. That's a big, people get mad at us sometimes. They're like, that guy had no idea what he was talking about. Why'd you let him speak for so long? Because Jeff and I want to let him speak. You may have 10 stupid things to say, but one point might be really good. And so sometimes I like sticking around to see if we hit the one point. If we don't, we make fun of you for about 5 seconds and we move on. It's part of life.
Do you know how large your listening audience is?
I mean, I know what the streaming numbers are. I think I don't think about it. I just don't. I've had situations where I've hosted halftime for the Browns, and you talk about that Lou Gehrig moment. Today.
Yeah.
And you're looking around, and then you realize there's 8. You're talking to 8 now, and you've got a microphone, and you're on the field, and there's no delay. I mean, there's a delay going out, but if you drop a swear word, there's no one there to clear it. So sometimes that's intimidating. I mean, who knows how many people have watched on television? Who knows how many people are listening? And you lose the intimacy of a conversation when you do that. So, how many people are watching now? I don't know.
So the idea is, if you're comfortable with your job and your knowledge of the sports, then it should flow, and you shouldn't have to be too worried about making a mistake. I mean, I had the Indians game on. I had the Guardians game on Sunday.
And that's like happens all the time.
And one of them, I forget which one of it was, said Indians. I thought, well, you've been saying it so long.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Yeah?
People make mistakes in their conversation, and it's the people that don't make mistakes. I worry about them. I mean, how perfect can you be? People make. I mean, the shows where I don't make a mistake, I think, is probably rare. We all make mistakes every day.
How many phone lines are there into your show?
So we've got up to 6. Normally we just run 4. So there's special lines that we have for contests and special lines for hotline callers. So if we're today we had Lewis Black on. I was telling you that story before.
Yeah.
So he calls in on a hotline. But for the most part, we call it 4 deep. So if there's four phone lines lit, we're 4 deep.
And is that pretty common to have people?
During Brown season, it's lit all the time. During the Browns, it's lit all the time.
Is that right?
Yeah, we do a show on Monday called Browns Therapy Monday. and Jeff and I just listen. That's really what we do. We'll tell you what we thought of the game. We'll get into the minutia of the game, but that Monday is for fans, and it's the opportunity to complain about what they did on third down or cherish the moment that Nick Chubb made a great play by stepping out of bounds and making sure that the other team had no time, or taking a knee in bounds so that the team would have no time to run another play.
So let's just change the subject matter a little bit. What do we have the right balance in Cleveland between how important our sports teams are to the general community?
No, we don't. I mean, if you put all of the teams on a level of what's important for our city, like, I don't think there's any question it's the Guardians. They fill 81 dates in downtown Cleveland, if not more. They help restaurants and bars and hotels and taxes and all of those things that make our city thrive.
Okay.
And the Dolans, for as much as people want to rip them for not spending money, have had the most consistent team in this century. Now, the Cavaliers have proved that they can make a pretty good run at their importance level. LeBron did that.
Yeah.
But that's all single-base superstar stuff. And that's why I think this year was so appealing for Cavalier fans. Now, obviously, what the Browns do on a Sunday is still super important for us. All three, I mean, we are so lucky to have three, and you can throw the Monsters in there too if you want, 3.5, three big-time sports and one other professional sports team in this town.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think, I had talked to somebody 10 years ago who was a high-ranking member of one of those three sports teams and said, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't know if we're all going to exist. The corporate money is not here to keep driving those three franchises, to keeping the suites open, to making sure that the money, billboard money and all those things that the high money things there.
Yeah.
It's a population problem. It's not owner's problem. It's not fans' problem. It's just population and consumer problem. And he had said to me, it's going to be very difficult to maintain three teams in this town. Yet we still do it. So, tip of the cap to you.
There are big cities. One that comes to mind for me would be Kansas City. They only have two.
Right. Buffalo.
Buffalo.
It's not too much different.
Buffalo's a very small community, has two. Cincinnati. They have the whole Kentucky, the whole southern part of the river there. I guess you could count the pro soccer. They have two.
Right.
I mean, for us to have three is extraordinary.
Cincinnati can back things. Their love for college basketball in that region. Is
Xavier and
and
UC.
Bearcat
College football.
Bearcat football is just. So first of all, University of Cincinnati and Bearcat football have just exploded.
Yes.
In the last 15 years.
Yes.
And Luke Fickell's really helped with that. But the basketball, it's just, we've got college basketball here, but we don't have what they have there. They've got Kentucky. They've got Louisville. They've got Dayton. They've got Xavier.
Yeah.
I'm sure. They've got Wright State.
Right.
Yeah.
They've
got Miami. There's all these big-time D1
Division
programs
I,
there.
D1.
Yeah. We have them,
Yeah.
but they just, on a college level, it never really escalates here. Cleveland State did the best job. Well, Kent did it when they had their Elite Eight run, but Kent State never put any money back into it. They took all the money they made from that Elite Eight, and I don't know where it went. And this, disgruntled Kent State alum here. They were sitting on a gold mine, and they just didn't care.
Well, I went to 4 Cleveland State basketball games this year. It's $16 to sit midcourt. I think it's one of my questions. I don't think there's a better ticket in town.
It's a great value thing, but just they don't. When you're in the shadow of the Cavaliers in this town,
Right, yeah.
and college basketball doesn't play the same way as it does everywhere else.
Yeah.
Even Ohio State is going to get a bigger television draw in Northeast Ohio because of the alumni, because of football, because of wanting to be associated with Scarlet and Gray.
Let's talk about that stadium on the lake that has 10 events a year. Well, it has 8, maybe one home preseason game. I know it's the biggest of the sports arenas. I know it has the most players. It has the most effect. But it is odd that we only use it 9 times a year. What can we do about that?
Yeah, when you go home, I want you to look up Hoosier Dome. Or not Hoosier Dome.
in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indianapolis. Why am I? Lucas
Lucas
Oil.
Oil.
I think it changed names again.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Go look and see how many dates they fill that.
Oh.
It's not just football.
Right,
It's
right.
basketball. It's the NCAA.
Yeah,
It's
track meets.
tractors. Because they put a roof on the stadium.
I know, right.
And Jeff and I have been on this bandwagon for 11 years that we need a dome stadium. And I'm not saying a regular dome stadium. Like King Dome was a bad place. Hoosier Dome was a bad place. Pontiac, the Silver Dome, those were just bad places. They were a football field that you were used to seeing that had the 70s shell, and they put a bubble on it. King Dome was worse because it was a concrete bubble. And those weren't what are perfect. What's perfect? Seattle's perfect.
Yeah.
Arizona's perfect. Anything they've built in the last 10 or 15 years. Retractable. Sky Dome got it first. They were smart. Retractable. So that way, if you want to play football outdoors, you just open the roof.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're closing it. I think it is the biggest, between that and Burke Lakefront, they're the biggest waste of space that we have. I love our stadium, but let's face it, we were in a gigantic hurry to put it up there.
Yeah.
And Jeff says this all the time, that I think it was HOK was the architect. If it wasn't, I'm sorry. But they just said, hey, do you have any plans for a stadium, an outdoor football stadium? Hang on. Oh, I got this in my drawer. And then you're going to,
Wow.
That's what we got. That's what we got because we're in
Yeah.
a big hurry. Had to have that stadium right away.
The syntax. Does it, from a philosophical point of view, how do you feel about it?
Saved baseball in Cleveland. I think about it from its origin. Not really where we are now. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm drinking a beer, which I hardly ever do, to pay a couple extra cents to drink it in Cuyahoga County because I know I'm helping out sports teams, I don't have a problem with it. And I know how close the vote was when they took down the old Central Market.
Right.
Right. You're talking about 1%. We were 1% away from watching the Tampa Bay Indians. People forget about that.
And the upgrades to Rocket Mortgage Arena that were approved, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, cost a lot of money, cost a lot of public money. I think the overall question is, what are your thoughts on public funding of places that may only get 9 visits a year?
Well, I get it for the football stadium. Like, I understand, but that venue needs to be utilized more often.
Yeah.
They need to figure out a way to
Yeah.
do more things there. They've tried to bring soccer in, concerts. I'm trying to think of traditionally black college football games,
right, yeah.
high school football games.
Yeah.
That venue, but because it's grass, it's tough to use that venue
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah.
So I understand the rationale by what we don't have there. I'm leery about. I mean, look, if we're going to give tax breaks to corporations to stay in Cleveland, which we should because we need the jobs, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Putting in my 2 cents, whatever it takes, to make those venues happen. It's just the hard part of the ticket prices are expensive.
Yes.
There's no like you watch the Masters. I think a beer is $3 there.
Correct.
Why are I know why they're expensive because they're trying to make up money, but just and by the way, the Guardians do a great job. You can bring your own water in, you can bring your own food in, you can plan a day where it doesn't cost you $100 for a family of 4 to go, but you have to plan.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the Guardians Indians, that you had to set out a game plan of how you're going to do it and be economical. And most people just want to go, here's my credit card, let's go. Oh, $50 for is the biggest ripoff ever.
Yes, it is.
I love Blossom, love you. You're the greatest musical venue you're the greatest outdoor musical venue in the history of my life. Severance Hall, you'd be the greatest indoor. But
Parking.
it's just, I think they have a drink for like $24 there. What?
I think people would want to ask you this question about how you look on the bench. Let's just use the baseball. And you never really know what happens back in the clubhouse. You never really know what's going on. They're all kind of, just kind of on that face. Can you tell us that there's a lot of problems with some sports teams and they're just really good at putting on the face, or do they really get along as well as they all say they are?
It depends on the team. I spent 6 years with the Indians traveling with them,
Yeah.
home and away, didn't miss a game.
Yeah.
I did 4 with the Cavaliers. I think back to, especially with the Indians at the time, I think those guys got along.
Yeah.
But, clubhouses in Major League Baseball are a cross-section of America.
Yeah.
Latin guys, African-American guys, guys from the South, guys who are from the East, that are like, guys who have 4-year college degrees, guys who went straight from high school to the minors. So you're always going to have, in baseball especially too, I think baseball is a really unique thing, especially because baseball players also live in that clubhouse. There's
Yes.
a lot of time to kill in that clubhouse.
Yes.
Whereas in football, the locker room gets, nameplates are taken off right after the game. Same with the NBA. Those guys spend a lot of time together too, but there's just more guys with baseball.
Yes.
So, no, not every. That's why Terry Francona is great, because especially with a young team, these guys are kind of learning the way, and in some ways you got to pay your dues. But we're also living in a time now where it's instant success before maybe you've deserved it or garnered it, and I think that's a problem. That you talk about how you sound old, but I think there's something to be said for paying your dues in what you do.
Ownership. In football, it's the Billionaires Club with a commissioner whose salary is unbelievably high.
Right.
Let's just stick with football for a moment. How difficult is it for the players to really get what they want in those negotiations when the billionaires are getting paid so much money for the media rights? How does all that work? How do the players do well, or can they do well?
Well, again, I think we forget even a guy who's, and I forgot what league minimum is in the NFL, but even a guy who's making $700,000 plus, which I think is low for the NFL. I think baseball's $700,000 or $800,000 a year if you can play for a whole season. That's not real.
Right.
And so when you look at these players' associations, they're going to push as far as they can, and they should, especially in football. You're lucky if you make it 3 years.
Yeah.
You are lucky to play. You're lucky to make it one season. Look at these guys playing in the USFL. They want to be out there. There's a million guys, even with football going through a shortage, that would love to play on any given Sunday.
Yeah.
And make league minimum for a game, or be on a practice squad where you're making a couple $100,000 a year. A couple $100,000, anyone's killing for a 6-figure job, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's not real. It's all fantasy. When you're in that world, we're talking about billionaires, we're talking about millionaires. One of the discussions that comes up all the time about this is, my dad worked in the steel mills. Okay, my dad was an electrician. My uncle was a plumber. I had uncles that were electricians. They were all tradesmen. And I think about my dad working at the mill, and those guys got asbestos in their lungs, and the union was fighting for the right to make sure you've got clean air to breathe, to make sure that you had good compensation health care, to have the opportunity to maybe take some of your union money, put it back in the credit union so your kids can go to college.
Yeah.
That's a union. Sheet metal workers, plumbers.
UAW.
All those guys. I mean,
Yeah.
working on a line.
Yeah.
Players' associations aren't unions. They're an association of multimillionaires and millionaires. And and my litmus test on this is always if the ticket takers union at a ballpark was fighting for fair wages, $20 an hour, something like that, would the baseball players cross a picket line to support them? If they say yes, or they would support them, then I would believe they were a union, not an association of millionaires. They'll never do that.
And it is hard for a city like Cleveland, who I think 2 years ago we were the number one poverty city in America. We aren't much better than second or third on that list. There's a lot of people in this community who $20 an hour is a tremendous amount of wages, albeit for all kinds of reasons they can't make more than that. But let's just say $20 an hour would take care of a lot of people in this community.
Sure.
And it is hard for some of them, I think, to say, I can't wait till the Browns play. I mean, I can't wait till the Indians play. I can't wait. I mean, they've got much more important concerns in their life than whether there's going to be a baseball strike.
Yeah, I have no patience for baseball right now when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And baseball is killing. We're joking about Lewis Black.
Yeah.
They're single-handedly killing their own game. Although there are little things that are kind of percolating that give me hope. I never thought I would want a pitch clock, but in the minors, they're shaving 20 minutes off the game just by killing the boredom part of the game.
Yeah.
Throw the ball back to the pitcher. Let's go.
Yeah.
Players want to play in that game. Jake Westbrook, probably one of my favorite pitchers. Why? He threw the ball fast, and he got a lot of ground ball outs. Players love playing behind him, and I loved when I was doing pre- and post-game when he was pitching because we knew the game was going to be 2 hours, 10 minutes, 2:15, 2:30 at the most.
Let's talk about attendance for all three. Late 90s, the Indians had, 350 games in a row, somewhere around that?
455?
455 in a row where every seat was sold.
Mm-hmm.
And then
The perfect storm, by the
the
way.
perfect storm, Tomei, etc. But what
And no Browns.
And no Browns.
That's the
But
perfect.
what happens when they have a couple rough seasons and we're second lowest in attendance? What does that say about Cleveland baseball fans? Is it that simple?
Here's the really interesting part about it is, do you think they don't care? What do you think it is? Do you think it's apathy? What do you think?
I have had season tickets for some time now. I go to 20 games a year, but I've been a baseball fan my whole life. I don't even care who I watch. I'll go watch a single A team. I like the game.
Sure.
So I'm always going to be a baseball fan.
All right, so here's where you have to worry about the danger of that baseball team. When the TV ratings start to die, that's when you're in trouble.
Are they dying?
No, never. The team that they call the Indians or the Guardians or whatever, like year in and year out, one of the highest rated teams in baseball. Our fans watch. They know what's going on. They may not be as emotional as they were. They are mad at the Dolans about every move they make, except for the year that they just missed winning the World Series. After they just lost the World Series, or even when they were in the World Series that year, the Dolans were the greatest owners ever. Every time we answer, hey, what do you think of the Dolans? We're in the World Series, or we're playing against the Cubs. These guys are great. They don't have to spend a lot of money to put a competitive team out on the field.
Yeah.
Look at the pitching they've done. Wow. Miller, look at this. Look how they made Miller star. And this guy can do it all. And the Dolans were geniuses. Geniuses. No one was talking about trading 2 Cy Young Award winners when they made it to the World Series.
And then we had one little rainstorm, and
Everything changes.
Everything
Everything went
changed.
back to, and then they didn't spend money. Who didn't make any offseason moves? The Indians' biggest offseason move came 24 hours before the season when they signed Ramirez to a big contract. Do they get credit for that? Nah, they're cheap. Who's playing? Who are these guys that we're watching now? That's what you're trying to figure that out. Owen Miller. What's Owen Miller?
Yeah.
Come on. And he's playing great.
Cavaliers. We had quite a run here,
It was fun.
thanks to the local kid.
Yeah.
We had quite a run ever since that draft night.
It was amazing.
I'm not sure if anybody could even have predicted on that draft night how he would take control of the sports world. And now he's aging for the first time. It seemed like this was an aging. Past couple of years, he appears to have aged a little bit.
Still up there in scoring.
Still up there
Still
in
breaking
scoring.
all the records. It's
Still
just
looks like a piece of steel.
Yeah, the chemistry just didn't work for the
Yeah.
Lakers, and
Yeah.
Westbrook is a lot of people shaking their heads. He's now working for a management team though that didn't want to let him have the influence that maybe he did before.
So what do we think about the Cavaliers owners now, post LeBron, with this young group of kids here?
I have thought, probably since the first day I met him, that Dan Gilbert is the owner you want. He
Yeah,
is. And I'm going to give you 2 stories here.
Okay.
First of all, I've never once heard Dan Gilbert say, we can't afford that. We can't do anything. We can't.
Wow.
Dan says money leads. I think that was the lead. I'm close to it, something like that. Money leads and everything else follows. There's a reason why he's so successful. And I wonder what his life would be if he didn't have the stroke and the turmoil in his life.
Yeah.
Dan never there. Have you asked yourself? Have you ever heard the Cavaliers say we can't afford that? We can't do that. They did everything for LeBron. Whatever LeBron wanted, LeBron got.
Including Independence.
Yes, including
Well,
Independence.
halfway from Akron, yeah.
Which, by the way, is a reason why free agents like to play for the Cavaliers, because that facility is unbelievable compared to other NBA facilities.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going to Oakland, and I mean, like, the Warriors were practicing on top of a parking lot in a hotel, and it was converted into a couple gyms. It was a dump, total dump. But when it comes to Dan Gilbert, there's a lot of stories I think people don't see, and I'm torn because there are times when Dan has disassociated himself in the beginning, and I've never really dug into it, and I wonder, I look at them and I'm like, well, those guys were pretty good friends, and I don't get where we are.
Yeah.
But I'm always thankful for the fact that I've never once heard him say we don't have enough money. They've done an amazing job of redoing that arena, which is one of the oldest in the NBA now, which I don't think people realize.
Yes.
Or at least it's in the middle towards the older end. And, he'll do whatever it takes to help this team win. And if he needs to go over the cap, he'll go over the cap. Now, for the audience that we're talking to right now, I'm going to give you one other story, which is unbelievably special. It was after the stroke, and Mike Berg, who coaches at Shaker, a hockey coach, and I coach hockey, JCC called and said, hey, we've got a chance to take a hockey team to Maccabi, which was in Detroit that year, the USA Maccabi games. And we went, and we took a team up there. It was great. It was all, we played, all our games were Novi. But during the opening ceremonies, it kind of just hit me how much Dan cares about his community, whether it's the community of Cleveland, which he's done, or the Jewish community, which is just like what he did for the Maccabi games when we were in Detroit I think it was 3 years ago now. I was 19, I think 19. Like, I felt this sense of pride because we were at Little Caesars Arena for the opening ceremonies. And, I mean, you've got, I don't know, a couple thousand Jewish kids from all over the country getting ready to compete in athletic events. And the money that he poured into making that happen was amazing. And so not only did I feel this kind of sense of he gets it, he understands what's important, but his family gets it too. And giving back to the community is very important to them. That's nothing against the Haslam's. That's nothing against the Dolans.
Yeah.
But I do feel like for this guy from Detroit that pumps millions of dollars into our economy, and I'm not, I mean, we know that we're giving him money back. Now, I know he doesn't own the casino anymore, but, he got rewarded by this city by, getting the license to be able to, and by the state too. So, but I just, I have this, unbelievably warm feeling about that opening ceremony and seeing Dan Gilbert and his family's influence in that Maccabi games. I don't know. It's a sense of being and a sense of seeing someone that, tzedakah is probably the right word, but just giving back.
Yeah.
It's the right way.
Haslam. He's got this town wrapped around his finger like nobody else does. Again, knowing 9 events, they've come close a couple times, but then the other times they go how many years in a row, no playoffs. And then they do what they did with their little signing about maybe 6 weeks ago or so.
Yeah. With Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson. Just give me your thought on whether that will benefit this community or not, bringing that kid in here, and what they gave up for him.
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I wrote about this in Jewish News when it happened. I'm numb. I don't know, and not. I mean, there's 2 sections to what we're talking about here. First of all, there's Jimmy Haslam, who's not, again, and this is what's bad for the Dolans is you've got Dan Gilbert and Jimmy Haslam that don't think twice about opening up their checkbook. And that's what fans want. They don't want to hear that there's a negotiation problem or that Myles Garrett can't play here anymore. And we're going to sign Myles Garrett. We're going to sign Denzel Ward. And Jimmy wasn't going to lose when he had the opportunity to go get Deshaun Watson, the football player. The 22 civil suits, I'm speechless because I just don't get it. The real part that I don't get is he wasn't indicted, not once, but twice. And you know as well as anybody, how hard is it to get somebody indicted?
It's like me writing my name right now.
That's right. And anybody on any other show would be as easy as making a ham sandwich, right? That's the joke.
You could get a ham sandwich and a banana indicted tomorrow morning at 9:30 at the grand jury.
How did Deshaun Watson not get indicted? Help me. I don't like, and that to me makes me question everything that's going on. And it goes back to the rush to judgment on everything.
In Cleveland, for sure.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. If a grand jury didn't indict him, I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I do know that there are 22 women that have a serious problem with the massages that they gave, or enough of a problem that they went to a lawyer and said, hey, this ain't right.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I'm befuddled by the fact that 22 women are now in civil suits with him, and something ain't right there.
Yeah.
But in the court of law, he wasn't indicted.
He's innocent until proven guilty.
And that's how our country works. It's supposed to work that way.
Let's go through some shorter subject matters before we finish. It seems as though
The fastest 45 minutes in sports right now.
it seems that a lot of the sports product is going to streaming.
Yeah.
When we were kids, everything was on regular television, good old regular television. Is that a train that's just not going to stop? Are we going to end up with everything either being on Apple TV, YouTube, Amazon, Paramount, and Hulu? Is that where we're going?
Yes, and sort of no. What's the most popular sport?
Football?
And they're smart enough to know that you got to leave this on free TV
Okay.
because they know that drives everything. And
At least for Sunday.
yeah, well, yeah, and no, even the games that aren't on Sunday in your local market, it's supposed
Okay.
to be available on one of the
Okay.
over-the-air channels.
Got it.
I gotta believe that they know that has been part of the formula that has totally worked for them.
Yeah.
So what's the deal now? Apple TV is about to get Sunday Ticket. They'll take that from DirecTV. So does that make people want to go to?
I don't know.
One of the single most important moments in free television history was when the NFL decided to go to Fox. Remember, they left CBS.
Yes.
And it was NBC. I think people forget this because NBC lost it for a while.
Right.
That it was just NBC and Fox for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they created, and I think they realized the power of what they were because they took all these like UHF stations that were kind of Fox and trying to, they were the Simpsons. That was all they had.
Yeah. And all of a sudden,
Was that not, I mean, Rupert Murdoch, that was a great move to pay an exorbitant fee, and we still haven't turned back on those fees.
women's sports. Undercovered on your show?
Undercovered, I think, across the nation.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's got to be an appetite for it. So some women's sports, U.S. women's soccer, when they get hot, there's an appetite for it, and I think people want to see it. I've always been a huge proponent of women's athletics, and it took going to Montana to make me understand
You
it.
mentioned that. How about women's tennis?
I think
Yeah.
of all of the, you want to talk about gender equality in sports, I think women's tennis is,
Yeah.
in some ways, people would rather watch a women's game
Yeah.
than watch a men's game.
A difficult
Matches,
subject
matches.
for somebody, I think, in the sports world is gambling. Nowadays, you can have a gambling app on your phone and you could bet the game at halftime. Is that going to be
You can bet on the next play,
you can bet on the next play?
and we knew it was coming.
How dangerous of an institution is it going to be?
It's an addiction. I mean, it
Yeah.
can be an addiction for some people.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's alcoholism, it's drugs, it's the same thing. In moderation, just like anything else, it's okay. It's weird how it's infiltrated everything we do now. Everything we do.
You can, I mean, in some of those, I don't know whether it's in Cleveland yet, but you can walk out of your seat and go over to the hallway and bet.
Yeah.
On
Well, that's
what's-
coming.
That's coming.
Yeah, well, it's already. I mean, my question is what happens when we host the women's Final Four and there's they're building a sports book inside Rocket
That's what I'm
Mortgage.
saying. The sports book, right? it's
So
coming.
that's coming. But how many people are going to go to the sports book when you can go to your phone and press? I do think it'll be a really nice sports bar where you can make a bet, and it's still there's still something about Vegas that if you want to gamble, going to the destination in Vegas still is. I think it's special. To me, it's like I'm not a big gambler at all. And then when the Jack moved in, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, But it's not Vegas. It's not,
Yeah. What about the idea of betting on a college game, not just a professional game? And so now you've really got kids who are in college when the University of Michigan plays that school in Columbus. You can imagine how many of those kids are going to be on the app with maybe daddy's money in their pocket on the phone.
They're already doing it, so it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that.
Yeah.
And don't kid yourself. There's sheets on high school in Ohio too. You can bet Ohio high school.
Is that right?
You can. They've been
I actually
doing it
wrote
since,
that down, and I didn't know that was the answer. My God.
Well, I mean, when I was at Kent State, there were guys that had sheets on high school every week. You could do a 3-team parlay on high school.
Wow.
It was no problem at all. So, if somebody wants to find that, they're going
Yeah.
to find it. And so, now at least maybe if you want to try to spin a positive on it, at least it can be regulated. And if somebody needs help, it's a commercial away. At the end of every
Yeah.
commercial, they're telling you how to get help.
And the only reason we have the gambling outside of Vegas is the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. But we also have a U.S. Supreme Court ruling about the ability of the student athlete to be much more of an income producer for themselves.
They deserve it.
How does that fit into their busy schedule of trying to be a student and an athlete and a product for Nike or somebody else? How does that work, you think?
I think that it's not what you think it is, and I think Jeff and I feel like I've had to explain to Jeff plenty of times that name, image, and likeness is not about superstar athlete at college. Although Quinn Ewers is the big name that everyone wants to talk about now, because here's a kid that graduated early from high school, went to Ohio State, made $1 million in name, image, and likeness, and then left because of the transfer portal. I actually didn't even play, so I think he had 2 snaps all year. Made $1 million for 2 snaps, if you want to look at it that way.
Wow.
Now back in Texas, and I think he signed a $3 million name, image, and like. There's a kid that's got like 4 to 6 million, and hasn't even done a complete set of downs yet.
Wow.
And also over the first 15 days of May, we're talking about this for high school too. Name, image, and likeness for high school. It's right there.
It's coming.
It's there. I mean, I give Ohio High School Athletic Association credit. There's only 6 states so far that have kind of recognized it.
Wow.
The Supreme Court says if you can make money doing this, how can you stop an 18-year-old
Right.
from doing that?
Yeah.
So it's over the first 15 days of May, excuse me, you've got, I'm pretty sure it's just principals or whoever's on the board. They're voting to set up the rules for name, image, and likeness. So it's coming.
College, you just said the two-word term, trade portal. When we were kids, you went to UCLA to play basketball, and you spent all 4 years with John Wooden. First year, you're actually on a freshman team. Now, I mean, it's like being on the New York Stock Exchange. As soon as we got done with the Final Four, you had massive changes, and they're moving around. How does that affect, again, student athletes, you think?
I think if you're an athlete, you should be in a position where you can play. And I also think that if you had the chance to play for John Wooden, you'd want to stay for 4 years. What happens if you're a freshman that goes into a school and your coach leaves?
Yeah.
Like I've always thought, if a coach left, the bond that's there is between the coach, the family, and the player.
Yeah.
And we don't see a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
So when you lose the coach out of that equation, what right did the NCAA have to tell you to stay? That really bothered me.
Yeah.
But that's just one side of it. Now it's, hey, that coach isn't going to play me as a freshman. I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think it's about having the opportunity to play. So if it's going to give someone an opportunity to play somewhere else, it is. But they're all free agents now. And then you throw name, image, and likeness in it. They're really free agents because you've got money, and you're trying to figure out, hey, if I'm a kid from Cleveland, but I really wanted to go play at Utah. And then I realized that my name meant a little bit more in Cleveland than it did in Utah. Maybe after a year, I'm coming back to go play Cleveland State. And maybe the next thing you know, I'm sitting there I'm on the Vikings schedule logo that's got a corporate sponsor on it. And now I can make more money that way.
A difficult subject, CTE, and every level of football. Does the NFL do enough and have they done enough in the issue of research and grants and being honest and truthful with the public?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the NFL, and I'm big on this because I know as a high school coach, the minute they told me when I was doing, you have to do, I don't know if people realize this, that high school coaches who are barely making anything to coach have to most of the time spend their own money through the Ohio High School Athletic Association and through the National High School Foundation, National High School, NHF. I can't remember the letters, but you've got to sign up for these courses online to be certified so you can coach. And the minute they tell you that if you put a kid out there, back out, who's got a concussion, that you can personally be held liable for it, those kids don't go back out. Like, I'm telling you that when I see a kid who has anywhere near any head contact at any level, they've got to answer about 40 questions for me, which is a SCAT 2 thing is what it's called. And do you know where you are? What's your name? Where are you? Do you feel blurry? Like, all those just baseline questions that you have, like, they're not even coming close to being able to go back out on the ice for me. And then after that, I'll make them leave the parents, and I'll talk to their parents during the game and be like, I'm not making the decision. The days of just getting your bell rung, they don't exist. It bothers me when we see head contact on a play and we throw a guy out of the game for head contact, helmet, especially in college.
Yeah.
But that guy that got hit in the head, what happens to him?
I know. Right.
He's back in the game in 2 plays.
Yes.
We were so wrong. Like, we're looking at this the wrong way. Yes, the guy made head contact and should be ejected. That's fine. But that guy who took the hit, why is he back in the game?
Yes.
You can't tell me that they didn't do a throw. And I don't care who it is. It also causes competition problems. Then it's like, well, we got this kid who's at the end of the bench, and, hey, man, go use your helmet to go ahead. It's dirty. It's wrong. Go hit their star wide receiver in the head. And so maybe we got to lose him for 2 or 3 plays. He's got to go in the tent. There's ethical things going on here. But the bottom line is the NFL doesn't do it. College doesn't do it. High school doesn't do it. We're worried about the wrong thing. And the wrong thing is penalizing the player who's hitting and not checking the athlete that now has head trauma.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing a better job of checking those kids? We're not.
And at the professional level, some might say that the reason the guy's back in there is because they want to win the game.
Sure. Hey, they don't want to miss a play.
They don't want to miss a play.
Who wants to be Wally Pipp?
Right. They want it, right, because look what might happen. There might be some guy coming along who'll be there for 2,100 games in a row.
That's right.
So I get all that. But the question is, with the initial settlement that the NFL has made, it sure doesn't seem like the athletes are being taken care of the way the NFL portrays it. Is that fair?
I think the NFL's come a long way with concussion protocol. There's probably still, they could go even farther.
Yeah.
And it's about protecting the players.
Yeah.
I've seen too many guys that played in the 80s that are just, their fingers are going in 30 different directions.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't know where they are.
Yeah.
And that's sad because a lot of those guys are my heroes.
Myself as well. I'm from Buffalo. We had 4 trips to the Super Bowl, and some of those guys couldn't spell Super Bowl right now.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's sad.
The Cleveland Browns stadium is pretty much full until we get to the end of the year.
Unless they're winning.
Unless even when they're winning, it's a little hard to get
Or
filled
if they're
up.
playing Pittsburgh and their fans come over here and fill up our stadium, or Buffalo, or
Everybody that I know
Cincinnati
talks about the drunks in the stadium, the beer being flown around, the foul language, and it not being a family setting. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think the NFL knows it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, the question is are you going to call that number that's on your screen that they put up all over the place? Hey, turn in rowdy behavior. Turn in this or that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just I don't understand why people go to a game, pay all that money for a ticket, get drunk beyond belief, becomes again, it's an escape from reality is what it is. It's a problem. It's not right. And the best time to take your family is for the scrimmage at the beginning of the year.
In
when
Berea.
they do fireworks afterwards. No, the one
when
they'll
the
have it at the
downtown
stadium.
one.
Yeah, my wife worked there. I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but my wife worked for the Indians for 14 years. She worked for the Browns for I think closer to 10. And she worked in seating. She worked as part of game management. And I can't tell you how many. I mean, there's a jail at Cleveland Browns Stadium. There's a jail at the ballpark that they take the drunkards down to.
Wow.
It's not fun. Hecklers aren't funny.
Yeah.
I guess if you do it right, there's some are funny, but I didn't pay money to go to a game to have somebody throw up on me next. It's
Right.
a problem. It really is.
Yeah.
And the teams are trying to do the best they can. It's out of control. It is out of control.
Yeah. Let's play a little name game.
Oh, okay, this will be fun.
Bernie Kosar.
Legend.
Did he get a rough finish here? Did he get?
From Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just he looking back on it in the moment, it just to bring in Todd Philcox over Bernie Kosar made no sense at all.
Yeah.
And so, but injuries put him in that position. Bill was a young coach who was going to let you know he was the boss.
Yeah.
And I think it added to Bernie's legacy here. It made him more beloved by the way Bill threw him out with his diminishing skills. I don't think Bill was wrong about the football aspect of it.
Yeah.
But Bill didn't like when Bernie was calling his own plays. And Bernie will tell you that.
He was drawing him in the dirt, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah.
He was doing that.
Bernie is the smartest football person I've ever met in my life. I've never seen a guy. There are players that could do this, but I was lucky enough to work with him. Bernie would see them break the huddle and tell me what the play was. He would see it by the way the receivers would run out of the huddle.
Wow.
He would see how the offensive lineman would walk out of the huddle. And he would tell me, and he was right 9 times out of 10. He is a brilliant football mind.
Urban Meyer.
Well, I got to give you one word.
No, you can be all the words you want. I mean, or maybe let's say this: before Jacksonville, Urban Meyer.
Winner at all costs. That's what I would say. I think Urban was a winner at all costs, and I know a lot of people that he upset along the way, especially longtime Ohio State people. Like a couple stories that I just shake my head about, especially about the tradition that was there before him and how he just didn't mean anything to him. Meant a lot to a lot of the people in that building.
Yeah.
Though.
And what about Jacksonville?
Stupid, unrealistic, and just is not bigger than the game that he was somewhere else. He'll be an analyst on someone's TV network this year. Sure. Fox probably.
Tiger Woods.
I wish he would have made better choices off the course. He, to me, is just everything prior to his divorce was an amazing story. He brought golf to an African-American community that was never a part of this game. I saw what he did in Columbus, where he gave money to one of the teaching schools there to help minorities play the game. His ability to win at Firestone, godlike. I hate to say that. He won in the dark. He won in the dark. Godlike's probably too much to say. But it just transcend, superhero-like is probably a better way.
Yeah.
And every rise has a fall, and Tiger got his, and unfortunately that just it in that world where he was, if that happened in football, I don't think anybody would have. They'd been like, oh, what a dog! Why was he doing that to his wife?
Yeah.
But in golf, you couldn't do that, and the fact that he played the Masters this year, inspiring.
Yeah. Trevor Bauer.
Man, he's going to fight this thing to the finish too. And that could change the way sports look at things.
Yeah.
Trevor is another guy that made a very interesting choice. And
are you talking about the drone and the blood?
No.
Or talking about what happened?
No, I'm talking about the crazy.
Yeah.
His choice of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there. And Trevor is going to fight this thing to the end. He is going to fight this to the end. He thinks out of the box. Think about this. The Indians hate going to arbitration. Why? They don't want to tell a guy on their team all the things he's doing wrong. And it's a great way to run your business, I think.
Yeah.
Trevor wanted to go to arbitration so we could hear all the things that they thought he was doing wrong. He is not in the box. He's outside it. He's a hell of a pitcher, though.
Francona. Tito Francona. Is there a nicer guy in baseball?
I like Tito. I haven't had the opportunity to spend time with him the way I did with Charlie Manuel or Eric Wedge or some of the older managers.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is that when he is at that ballpark, he is locked in and as great a baseball man as you possibly could have. He is locked in.
I think you were here when Clark Kellogg played for St. Joe's.
I was a kid. My brother was playing basketball at Heights at the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, Clark is one of the greatest human
Yes,
beings
he
on
is.
this earth.
And no one's ever going to forget what he did in the state championship game.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just at St. Joe's last week.
Is
2
it
weeks ago.
do you when you watch the March Madness, is that the first thing you think of when you see Clark? Is the kid's from Cleveland and Ohio State and all that? People don't know that much about him.
About
do they?
Clark now?
About Clark now, and to see him.
Yeah, I think anybody who's in their early 50s or late
Yeah.
40s or
Yeah.
older than that,
Yeah.
they know what Clark meant.
Yeah.
And then Treg Lee had a great run over there as well.
Yeah.
And Colin Irish was that same year, or was right around there. He ended up at Bowling Green. But to me, I knew Clark as a great high school basketball player, an amazing player at Ohio State when I was growing up.
Yes.
Clark blew me away when I was doing pregame for the Cavaliers, and it was just I don't know if I was wearing a name tag or whatever. I met Clark in Cleveland, did a quick interview with him. First time I'd ever met him. Then saw him in Indianapolis 3-4 months later. I walked by him and I was like, "Hey, Clark, Andy, what's up?" You're kidding me.
Wow.
Like shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked. And anytime we've had Clark on our show a couple times, he is truly one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
To finish with LeBron, maybe other than Jim Brown, our greatest athlete. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's hard not to say that. I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is, and it's not just because. And Jim did a lot, for social change as well.
Yeah.
His political impact is there. But, Jim is another guy that he's not perfect, and we all know that too. But LeBron changed the game, not only on the court, the way teams were put together, the influence of players on management and general managers. We always knew that there were players that had power.
Yeah.
But nobody had more power than LeBron when he was here. Nobody. And Dan Gilbert's drive to win a championship. I mean, remember how ugly it was when he left?
Yeah, there was nobody there.
If there's ever a reason to think that there could be peace in the world, it's LeBron and Dan.
Yeah.
LeBron figured out a way, and Dan figured out a way to put their egos aside because they both needed each other. LeBron needed to come back. He needed to fix it and repair his
Fix
image.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
And he gave us an unbelievable ride while he was here. He was a special player. I wish Kyrie didn't go off the rails the way it did, because when Kyrie was playing, those two, man, that was just amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know it's going to be years before we ever have anything like that again. That team was special, really was.
I really appreciate your time. And I used to talk sports all day, and then you have to come here and talk sports till almost 9 o'clock. I really appreciate you coming by, and I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, I did. This was fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
and thank you again for everybody for watching. Next week, my friend Brian Hagan will be here, a municipal judge from Rocky River, Ohio. Thank you very much, and good night.